dorks.
Hello and welcome to the CommanDorks. I'm Beef.
I'm Taryn, and we are back again with two new Commander deck techs, which are both centered around Universes Beyond cards. When we first planned this video, we thought we'd be kind of stepping into some controversial territory, you know, with Universes Beyond and all, but then the bans happened, and that Universes Beyond kind of seems negligible at this point, so yeah, here we are.
Yeah, so instead, in this video, we'll be discussing my Stranger Things deck, which is called Stupid Human Tricks. It uses the partner pairing of Mike the Dungeon Master and Eleven the Mage. But be also sure to check out Taryn's Assassin's Creed deck. Video link will be in the description.
But before Beef dives in, are you looking for an easy way to play some Commander games? Is your closest LGS too far away from where you live, or just tired of playing with random people every time on the spell table game finder? Well, look no further, because we'd like to invite you to the OGS Discord server. It has a great community of fun people to play Commander with on a regular basis. We use it all the time when we want to test out decks for these videos, and so we're going to include a link for that in the description. And once you're in, all you have to do is just select a role for whichever power level you're interested in. The role represents the power level, and then you just go into the channel for that given power level, type in /LFG to start a game queue, and you know, usually within 5 to 10 minutes you're gonna be saying draw for turn before you know it. So and you know, I also hear that they do give out a prize each month to the person who plays the most games, so be sure to check that out.
This is the deck tech for my 5-color humans tribal deck. The partner pairing from the Stranger Things show on Netflix of Mike and Eleven. That is Mike Dungeon Master and Eleven the Mage. Mike is a 2/2 human for 1, a green and a white. He has an ability of pay 2, tap, choose target creature card in your graveyard that was put there this turn, and return it to the battlefield tapped. And 11 is a 3/5 human wizard for 1 blue, black, red. She has your maximum hand size is 11, and whenever 11 the Mage attacks, you draw a card and lose 1 life. Then if you have 11 or more cards in your hand, you may cast an instant or sorcery card from your hand without paying its mana cost.
Woo!
So, yeah, there's some value there, some interesting options and opportunities with both of those commanders. So what's the pitch? Well, as I said, the first name of the deck is Stupid Human Tricks. The second name is Bringing Barb Back. Because I'm still annoyed that they killed off Barb in season 1 of Stranger Things. So how did this deck come to be? Well, when I was building mono white humans, around Rick, Steadfast Leader, I was kind of inspired as I was going through my cards and finding all these other humans that I thought, oh, these would be interesting to play around, but they don't fit into mono white humans. I wonder if there's something there. And when I decided to build 5-color humans, it seemed like building around the Stranger Things characters was a great option and a great opportunity to kind of showcase those. And so we have Stupid Human Tricks, which is a reference to a Letterman bit. If there's any Letterman fans out there, hey, you know, Stupid Human Tricks was a good time. Or Bringing Back Barb. So what kind of deck is it? It's human tribal aristocrats with pizzazz and some silly combat tricks and sacrifice synergies, and humans that cross into the other side and manage to return mostly unscathed. And humans, lots of unique and interesting humans, scrib-scrabbling and hornswoggling their way trying to survive. So, Stupid Human Tricks. Key pieces. Well, the commanders are kind of the heart of the deck because they're really telling us what the deck is trying to do and what it's trying to pull off. So we'll just mention a few kind of late-game bombs that can really turn the tide and give you an opportunity to press for some serious advantage. One that I'll mention right off the bat is Taunt from the Ramparts, sorcery for 3 and red and white. Goad all creatures your opponents control until your next turn. Those creatures can't block. So that being a sorcery is a great one to hit with an 11 trigger. When I've got 11 cards in hand, I'm casting that before we go to before blockers. It's on the attack. It's on attack before blockers are declared.
It's on the stack before we go to blockers. Yep. Yep.
I can suddenly make sure that you can't block me, and you're going to be attacking each other. So that means you're probably going to be tapped and without blockers when it comes around to my next turn as well. So it's setting me up for a couple of really great combats. Another similar sorcery that is one called Surge to Victory for 4 red. This sorcery says exile target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard. Creatures you control get +X+O, where X is the mana card's value. And whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player this turn, copy the exiled card. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost.
Oh. That's
so I've got a couple of bigger and instants of sorceries as well that if I get them into the graveyard at the right time, that can be a chance to really knock my opponents out as well. Couple others that I'll mention now that aren't sorceries in that same vein, but are also pretty relevant in the late game. Glaive of the Guild Pack, revealing, hey, this deck also has a Gates synergy. So
Who
it's
would have known? You?
Me? Who would thunk it? It's a great budget option for a mana base, and this was a fun opportunity to throw that in here as well. So it's a 2 CMC equipped for 3. It says equipped creature gets +1/+0 for each gate you control. It gives it also Vigilance and Menace. So just kind of a good synergistic piece. And then a creature that's also worth mentioning because of its ability to win the game is Odric Master Tactician. I've got a lot of creatures in this deck, a lot of humans. I'm going to have big board states pretty frequently, so whenever I can drop him and move to a strong combat that my opponents don't get any opportunity to block at all, can be a great way to close out the game. Piloting. This is pretty simple. How to pilot this deck. I've built it so that early game turns, you're pretty much trying to just ramp as hard as you can. I've got a number of creatures that are, dorks that are tapping for mana. I've got creatures that are enabling additional landfalls. I've got, not landfall triggers per se, but additional putting lands onto the battlefield. So the piloting strategy is really just ramp, get those mana rocks down as well, keep drawing card, churn any creatures as quickly as possible for value, keep digging, build a graveyard, prepare yourself for the late game plays. So prioritize strong ramp in your opening hand and hitting land drops. Speaking of said ramp, let's get into it. Those ramp pieces, I've got Avacyn's Pilgrim is a green human that makes white mana. Badoka Gardener, another human that says tap, put a land from your hand in the battlefield. It's got another ability once you get up to 10, it flips over and you can make tokens, but for the most part I like that extra land drops, especially when you're doing a gate strategy, getting down tapped lands, extra tapped lands early can be really, really huge. Zamon and Dina is a tap to sack a creature, you draw a card, and then you may put a land on the battlefield tapped, and if you control 8 or more lands, you repeat that once. That's great, really synergizes a lot with the sacrifice aristocrat strategy that I'm doing here. Again, with Mike, I'm loving any opportunities that I have to sacrifice creatures for value so that I can use Mike's ability to bring them right back and get...
He brings them back from the upside down, man.
He sure does. So Zamon and Dina is a great fit for that. Another piece that's also a great synergistic piece with Gates is Nine Fingers Keen.
Of course.
It's perfect for a Gates deck. It's a menace, ward, pay 9 life, human for 1 and black, green, blue. And when it deals combat damage to a player, you look at the top 9 cards of your library, you may put a gate onto the battlefield, and then if you control 9 or more gates, you put the rest into your hand. Oh, so good. So good. So strong. Fun to get to play some of these gate-centric cards in a deck that doesn't prevent me from playing permanents like my Cody deck does. Trulane, Teller of Tales. He's super gross whenever somebody plays him as commander, but I love him in a human tribal. He's perfect here. Human druid, whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card, and put a land from your hand on the battlefield. So really perfect and synergistic. Circuitous Route, you're going to find that in any Gates deck, I think. Search up 2 gates, put them on the field. Urban Evolution is good because it's a card draw sorcery that lets me play an extra land for 5. And then I'm running a bunch of rocks, so I'll just list those off pretty quickly. We got Soul Ring, we got Arcane Signet, Elwar Stone. Armillary Sphere is not a mana rock per se, but you can pay 2, tap, and sack it to get 2 basics to hand. And sometimes that's neat if you've got that down, and say I've got 8 cards in my hand, and I know I'm going to be going to combat with 11. And 11 is going to draw me a card. So I can sack it, get those 2 basic lands into my hand, and then 11, that's enough to push my hand size up to 11 so that I can get a free spell off on the combat. Sometimes I like, finding options like that.
Hence tricks.
Exactly, tricks. Get those extra activations. Thought Vessel, no max hand size. Pretty relevant. I draw a lot of cards in this deck. A lot of my creatures are making me draw cards. And while 11's on the board, I've got a max hand size of 11, and that's great. But if she gets removed, or if somebody thinks, oh, I'm just going to remove his commander and make him discard a bunch of cards, I like having several options in the deck that prevent me from having to discard those extra cards. Also running a Chromatic Lantern, which is great as well, just to kind of smooth out my colors in a 5-color deck. That's valuable. Decanter of Endless Water is like a combination of the two. It taps for any color. It's a 3-mana rock that taps for any color, and it gives you no max hand size. And then the last one is really good, Relic of Legends. It's a 3-mana rock that taps for any color, and you can tap legendary creatures you control to add mana of any color. And I got a whole bunch of legendaries in the deck, so turning all my legendary creatures into mana dorks, it can be very, very powerful.
Yeah, I have it in Assassins too. It's so good.
Oh yeah.
Very underrated mana rock, really.
So good, yeah. Card draw, whole bunch of card draw in the deck because we want to be drawing a ton. I'm trying to set myself up to have the option to get free spells off with 11, but I don't necessarily need to. But there's enough tertiary card draw that I've built into this that my hand gets full pretty quickly. So there's usually a couple opportunities to get those free spells. We'll go through the list pretty quick here. So Keen Duelist, big surprise, shocker.
Surprise.
He just keeps coming back because I love him so much. Love my Keen Duelist. Faramir, Steward of Gondor. It says that you get the Monarch whenever you have a legend of 4 CMC enter. And then at the end step, it makes 2 1/1 human tokens if you're the Monarch. So
that's
really
perfect.
Really great in this deck, yeah. The card draw from the Monarch plus the human tokens, specifically humans, love that. Grim Haruspex is a human that says draw a card whenever another non-token creature you control dies. Okay, that's pretty great. Arcade Ganon is a human from Fallout. He's a 2 and white-blue. His ability says tap, draw a card, discard a card, and he gets a quest counter. And then it also says that once during your turns, you may cast a human or an artifact from your graveyard, with mana value less than or equal to the number of quest counters on it. So, really great synergy there. I've got 36, I think, total humans in the deck, so plus another 13 artifacts. So there's a lot of options and things that I can be getting back with Arcade Ganon. Joyra, Weatherlight Captain, is a human that says whenever you cast a historic spell, which is an artifact, a legendary, or a saga, draw a card. Well, I've got 37 artifacts and legendaries in the deck, so that's a lot of good card draw. Minas Tirith Garrison is a human. Says whenever it has power and toughness equal to the number of cards in your hand. Well, that's good because I'm going to have big hands. And then whenever it attacks, you may tap untapped humans that you control to draw cards.
Oh my god.
So you get to draw the card for every human that you tap with it when it attacks. So yeah, pretty great way to get some extra cards in hand. Shanid, Sleeper Scourge, thank you. He's a Mardude. For 4, he has Menace. It says legendary creatures you control have Menace. And he also says whenever you play a legendary land or cast a legendary spell, you draw a card and lose a life. I've got 28 legendary lands or creatures in the deck. So there's a lot of opportunities to draw cards with that as well. So just opportunities to get things on the board, but not lose your hand from it as well. So you just keep on going, keep that advantage rolling. Yawgmoth, In position has an ability to sack a creature to put a -1/-1 counter on a creature and draw a card. So that's pretty synergistic. Another sack outlet, another card draw option, another way to take out opponents. Plus, it's got a whole discard proliferate option if I wanted to get down that road. Chulane, I mentioned Chulane obviously for the ramp, but he's also card draw, so that's great. Whenever I play a creature, draw a card. Mass Appeal is a sorcery for 2 and a blue. It says draw a card for each human you control. Rush of Knowledge for 4 and a blue is a sorcery. It says draw cards equal to the highest CMC among permanents you control. Pretty often that's at least 4 cards, and sometimes that's, exactly what I need to do first main right before I go to combat with 11, and then I get another spell off for free. Same with Urban Evolution. Draw 3, you can play an additional land this turn. Fact or Fiction is also pretty great for a similar reason, plus it's putting some stuff in the graveyard, and because I've got some Recursion and Reanimate synergies, Fact or Fiction is pretty great. Obviously, instant speed for 4, reveal 5, an opponent splits them into 2 piles, pick 1 hand, 1 for your hand, 1 for the grave. Another card draw piece is an equipment Robe of the Arch Magi for 2 and a blue. This equipment equips for 4, or only for 1 if you're equipping a Shaman, a Warlock, or a Wizard, and my Commander 11 is a Wizard, so it's going to equip for 1, and then whenever you deal damage to a player, you draw that many cards. So 11 that's 4 cards so I draw with 11. Kindred Discovery is a big Kindred card draw piece. Whenever in this case, human enters the battlefield or attacks under my control, I draw a card. So that's going to draw me a ton. And then I'm also running a sack outlet card draw piece, Greater Good, running the Italian version from the secret lair, the Sheldon Menery secret lair, Bene Supremo. But it says sack a creature, draw cards equal to its power, and then discard 3 cards. So, kind of opportunistically a good chance to dump some creatures in the graveyard before a big reanimation, or just to get a couple extra cards in hand before I move to combat. Removal pieces. Running Bounty Agent is a human that taps and sacks to destroy target legendary artifact, creature, or enchantment. So that can be really great to just take out somebody's commander and then bring it right back with Mike so that I can take out another commander, the next go around. Let's see, Priest of Forgotten Gods is a really effective little piece. 2-drop, 1 in the black, for a creature that taps to sacrifice 2 creatures. So I have to sack 2, but then each opponent has to sacrifice 1 and loses 2 life, and then I get 2 black mana and draw a card. It's
really good.
Strong.
It's so
very,
good.
Very strong, and pretty easy for me to set up advantageous situations to use that in. Druid of Purification is a human for 3 and a green. When it enters, it says each player chooses an artifact or enchantment I don't control and then destroy them. So we're going to get a bunch of pieces that are problems off the board, at least problems that aren't my problems, problems that I'm causing. Mentioned Yawgmoth Transposition has some removal ability. I'm running a Supreme Verdict. It's an uncounterable board wipe. The benefit here is that because I'm running both Boromir and a frontline medic, I've got some opportunities to give my board indestructible on a combat, so I can cast that with an 11 while my stuff's all indestructible, and then I'm attacking into an empty board is the idea, and they can't counter the board wipe. So I mentioned Taunt from the Rampart is effectively removal because it removes them as blockers for me, plus then it's removing my other opponents with each other's creatures. It's very strong. And then finally, the last big piece of removal I'm running is a very big board wipe. It's in Garruk's Wake. Is a sorcery for 9. That's 7 and 2 black, but it says destroy all creatures and planeswalkers I don't control. So another really powerful one to smack the table with on an 11 attack trigger, where they think they're going to be able to block, and then all of a sudden their boards are gone. So that's our removal. Moving right along, Recursion. Mike obviously is kind of the poster boy for Recursion in the deck, but there's a few other pieces that kind of can fill this void as well. I mentioned Arcade Ganon, and that he's digging and draw and discard, but then you can recast humans and artifacts from the graveyard as he gets his counters. So that's pretty neat. I'm running Marchesa, the Black Rose. She has Dethrone and gives other creatures Dethrone, so when they attack the player with the most life or tied with the most life, they get a +1/+1 counter. And it says also, whenever a creature with a +1 counter dies, I return it to the battlefield at the end of the next end step. So it can really incentivize me to attack that opponent, get them their dethrone the turn, then stack them with something else that I've got going on, and get the value of them being sacrificed while also getting them right back. It's pretty great. Running Archpriest of the Shadows is a human for, I believe it's 4 and a black. No, excuse me, 3 and 2 black. A human warlock with backup 1, which means when this creature enters the battlefield, you can put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. If that's another creature, it gains the following abilities until end of turn. Its abilities are Death Touch, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player or battle, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield.
Ooh.
So, human that's going to be reanimating things for me, maybe more than once, is pretty great. Also running big famous human Kenrith, the Returned King. Well, if I want to spend for his 5th ability, I can reanimate something with his pay 4 and a black to return target creature from.
That's an instant speed too, so you could surprise somebody.
And it's not even just my graveyard. With Kenrith, which is nice. A lot of creatures in this deck that have activated abilities, and those are kind of where the tricks come in, is the ability to just be activating things from stuff on the board and surprising people kind of at weird moments. So Kenrith's got that. Another piece that I'm running is Patriarch's Bidding. It's great for a tribal deck. It's not great if the tribal deck's running against other tribal decks as much, but so be it. But it says each player chooses a creature type. Each player returns all creature cards of a type chosen this way from their graveyard to the battlefield. So, good chance to get a lot of humans back with that. Primeval's Glorious Rebirth is a legendary sorcery for 5 white-black. It says return all legendary permanent cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, another good way for me just to get all my legends back. Can be really, really big, impactful. And then the last piece of recursion that I'll mention as well is an instant for 5 and black, Grave Endeavor. It says roll 2d10s and choose one result. Return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to that result. Then each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the other result. So, you're going to get to return something back, and you're going to get a big life swing from your opponents and back to you as well. So, pretty sweet piece. A few protection pieces we'll jump into here. Niambi, Esteemed Speaker, is a creature human for white and blue. Flash, when Niambi, Esteemed Speaker, enters the battlefield, you may return another target creature you control to its owner's hand. If you do, gain life to that creature's converted mana cost. So, a good opportunity to save something really important from targeted removal. And then it's also got an ability of 1 white-blue tap, discard a legendary card, draw 2 cards. So just really good synergy, getting my legendaries in the graveyard, drawing more cards to set up an 11 activation. Like that a lot. Boromir, Warden of the Tower, says my opponents can't cast free spells, or they get countered. And then also I can sack him to give my board indestructible. And Frontline Medic is similar in that I can sack it to counter a spell with an X in its mana cost unless its owner pays 3 more. And when it and 2 other creatures attack, then my creatures get indestructible till end of turn. So those are some protection pieces. Odric, Master Tactician, is controlling combat, so I'm effectively protecting my creatures from opponents' blockers. And then I'm also running a piece that I'll mention here is effectively protection. It's a legendary enchantment, background enchantment, Haunted One. Haunted One, legendary enchantment background for 2 and a black, says commander creatures you own have, whenever this creature becomes tapped, it and other creatures you control that share a creature type with it each get +2/+0 and Undying until end of turn.
Yep.
So, yeah, love that. That means I can start sacking everything, and I don't even have to use Mike to get them all back then. So you can do a lot of fun things with Haunted One. Plus, not to mention the Death Touch.
And that combined with Marchesa presents an endless loop of letting things die and come. God, I hate that. That's crazy good. Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I haven't actually gotten to see Marchesa interact with the Haunted One aspect, but they could really, effectively.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Get you a couple extra activations out of that one. So yeah, utility pieces. A few utility pieces I'm going to mention here. I'm running Birthing Pod. It's a cool card that I've always wanted to play, and this is a good deck for it. It's just going to give me the option to sacrifice creatures when I want to. Well, at least at sorcery speed. If you're not familiar with Birthing Pod, it's a 3 and a Phyrexian green artifact. So for that Phyrexian green, I could just pay 2 life if I want to. And it's also got an activated ability that says pay 1 and a Phyrexian green and tap. Sacrifice a creature, search your library for a creature card with mana value equal to 1 plus the sacked creature's mana value, put that on the battlefield and shuffle. So, again, just a good opportunity to sack something small, get something bigger, and then Mike just brings back what I sacrificed right away. Kind of perfect for.
Oh man, that's such a good synergy, and you just grab what you need in the moment too, right?
Exactly.
So,
yeah. You can find the best thing on the curve there. Right.
Yep.
And a very similar piece that I also am running and just added is a relatively new card called Descendant's Fury. It's an enchantment for 3 and a red. It says whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice 1 of them. If you do, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card that shares a creature type with the sacrificed creature. Put it on the battlefield and put the rest of the bottom of your library in a random order. So, again, another good opportunity to attack with a board state. If somebody just doesn't have a blocker, it's a great chance to just send the creature you care the least about at that person, sacrifice it, and replace it with something fresh and new. Plus, now there's a creature in your graveyard you could get back with some sort of recursion later. Pretty sweet little piece that's just digging me deeper and getting more creatures on the board and in the graveyard and keeping those options open. A couple other utility pieces. I'm running Key to the City, an artifact for 2 that says you can tap and discard a card to make 1 creature I control unblockable that turn. And then when it becomes untapped, I can pay 2 mana to draw a card. So it can replace that card. Again, setting me up to have specific cards in the graveyard. So if I want to set up a really good reanimation, if I want to set up a really good Surge to Victory with a specific instant or sorcery in my graveyard, that can be a way to get that card in the graveyard to begin with, plus getting that an opportunity to get 11 in and get my card draw and get that trigger and everything. Is pretty great. And then one more, Falkenrath Aristocrat. For 2, a black and a red, the deck's 1 non-human. It's a flying haste 4/1 vampire, but it has sack a creature, and Falkenrath Aristocrat gains indestructible until end of turn. If it was a human sacrificed, you get a +1/+1 counter on Falkenrath Aristocrat. So it's a free sacrifice outlet with upside, and it has flying, which a human's deck kind of struggles on the flying. So I like it. I like it as it's the exception that makes the rule effectively. It's a human's deck, and it doesn't work very well in a vampire's deck, which is where I originally had played it years and years and years ago. But it's kind of boring to play it in a vampire's deck because you're not ever getting the counters. Yep. So yeah, putting in a human's deck is perfect, especially one that wants to be sacrificing. We'll go into mana base here, pretty quick here. Again, surprise, another Gates deck from Beef here. It's a budget option that provides you a secondary win con, so I love me some Gates. I'm running 19 Gates in this deck, plus Maze's End, so I've got the win condition. I'm running 7 basics. I'm running a Reliquary Tower, a Terramorphic Expanse, Hawkins National Library as part of the Stranger Things secret lair that has some synergy. I'll mention that in a little bit. I'm running Cavern of Souls because I finally have a 5-color tribal deck that I can justify putting it into something.
Nice.
So I can cast them without them being countered. And then I'm also running the World Tree, which is Good for fixing, as letting my lands tap for any color once I've got 6 or more lands. And then I'm also running Command Tower. Multipurpose. Few multipurpose I'm going to mention here that just kind of, they can do different things at different times, but they're really, really strong pieces. The first one I'm going to mention is Garth One Eye. What a human this guy is. Oh, so much value. He's a 5/5 that costs Wooburg to cast, so you're getting a good piece on the board regardless. But then he's got the tap ability to create spells for yourself. Good relevant spells, including the classic Black Lotus. Yes, sign me up. Thanks, humans.
Who needs the reserve list when you have Garth One Eye?
Jewel Lotus. I have Garth One Eye and my Black Lotus. I can make a Black Lotus, I can make a Disenchant for removal, I can do a Brain Geyser, which is a big card draw, Terror is a kill spell, and then Shivan Dragon is a dragon when I need a flyer, Regrowth is get anything back from my graveyard, so a bunch of really good options.
Oh my god.
And I've got a couple of creatures in my deck that have untap abilities, so there are times when I can tap him, get my Black Lotus, untap him, get something else, or say I cast him, he's got haste, I make a Black Lotus, I sacrifice him, I bring him back with
another Black Lotus.
Make another Black Lotus. It's magical Christmas world. It's a good time, man. So Garth One Eye is a pretty good multi-purpose option that fits in the humans deck. I mentioned Kenrith earlier, but he's got 5 very relevant abilities if you need to dump the mana into it. And the most important one for me, I think, is the fact that for 1 red mana, you can give target player's creatures haste and trample. That's pretty huge. Especially if I have turns where I reanimate all my creatures, and now they've got haste.
Oh yeah, a Primeval's Glorious Rebirth, and then just 1 red pip, and everything's got haste. Have fun.
Yeah. Similar, fits that same vein. Samut, Voice of Dissent, for 3 red and green. It's a 3/4 flash, double strike, vigilance, haste, and other creatures you control have haste, human, and that's not all, because it's also got pay a white, tap it to untap target creature. So another piece in here that untaps things, that's letting me reuse these tapping ability creatures and get extra value. And considering it's got vigilance, that's something that you can still be attacking and getting that value in 1 turn. Oh, so good. It's a very good, stupid human trick. Synergies and combos. I just wanted to list off the Clue synergy, give a chance to kind of mention the Stranger Things cards and how they also, fit in this and they make sense. 1, obviously, being legendary creatures, they all synergize really well with a lot of the card draw and other effects that I'm doing. But just wanted to break down some of these added benefits. So the first one I'm going to mention is a card from Fallout. Piper Wright, Public Reporter, is a 1 and a blue for a small creature that says whenever it deals damage to a player, you investigate that many times, and then whenever you sacrifice a clue, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Will the Wise from Stranger Things, he's got an ETB and death trigger ability that says when he enters the battlefield or leaves the battlefield, each opponent may investigate. Each opponent who doesn't loses 1 life, and then I investigate X times, where X is 1 plus the number of opponents who investigated. So clues, pile up those clues, and sometimes the clues can be the difference between, can I pull off an 11 activation, get a free spell this turn? And I don't have a ton. I only have about a dozen instants of sorceries in this deck, but I don't need a lot of them. I just want to have enough that there's going to be something in my hand I can get that value off on the trigger. James Wandering Dad from Fallout, he has an instant adventure on him for X and 2 blue, investigate X times, so make a bunch of clues that way. And then the creature side says is a 2/4 for 3 that says tap, add 2 mana, spend this mana only to activate abilities. So he's perfect for sacking clues, he's perfect for activating different artifacts that we've got, activating some abilities, like activating Mike's ability. He can pay for that too, which is pretty great. Junkyard Genius is a really cool piece that I think should get more attention. For 1 black-red, ETB, create a tapped Power Stone token. Power Stone token taps for 1 mana, but it can't be spent on non-artifact spells. So you can use it to cast artifacts, and you can use it to activate abilities, period. So you just can't cast non-artifact spells with it, but there's a lot of opportunities to use that mana. And then it's also got an ability of, for 1, a black and a red, sack another creature or artifact, so it's a sack outlet. And until end of turn, other creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain Menace and Haste. So another broad Menace and Haste enabler that's going to make your creatures more effective in combat. Pretty great in here. Max the Daredevil is a human for 1 red-green. So whenever you cast your second spell each turn, untap target creature and investigate.
Garth.
So you're going to get clues. Exactly. Garth is a good one for that. Chief Jim Hopper for 2 red-white. He has Menace. Whenever he attacks, investigate once for each non-token attacking creature. That's a lot of clues. Dustin, Gadget Genius, 2 white-blue. He taps for 2. That can only be spent to cast artifact spells and activate abilities of artifacts. But again, he's a good clue cacher. Lucas the Sharpshooter has a tap ability, sacrifice an artifact. He deals a damage to target creature and then goad that creature. So kind of a good, stupid human trick. You know, it's a trick. It's something you can do, something you can pull off, something to untap and goad a couple things and set up really good options. And then, of course, Hawkins National Laboratory is a legendary land that taps for 1 colorless. It also has an ability of pay 4, tap, and investigate. And it also says at the beginning of your end step, if you sacrifice 3 or more clues this turn, you transform Hawkins National Laboratory. When this land transforms into the Upside Down, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. When the creature put onto the battlefield with the Upside Down leaves the battlefield, transform the Upside Down. And then it also can tap, pay 1 life, add a black mana. Reusable reanimation that only requires you to sack 3 clues in a turn. That's pretty cool. You know, pay 6 mana, draw 3 cards, and at your end step you get a creature back. Like, that's not bad. It's really not bad. So that's kind of the pieces that really synergize with the clues and have some tie together there. And then one other combo that I've mentioned. I mentioned the World Tree. There is a combo with the World Tree. So I'm running the Maskwood Nexus in the deck. Maskwood Nexus is a 4-mana artifact. It says creatures you control are every creature type. Same is true with creature spells you control and creature cards you own that aren't in the battlefield. And it also has pay 3, tap, create a 2/2 blue shapeshifter creature token with Changeling. So it's going to make me humans. And if I get so lucky as to activate the World Tree's ability, which is double Wooburg, tap, sack it, search your library for any number of god cards, put them on the battlefield and shuffle. The 2 of them together means I get every creature out of my deck and put them on the battlefield. So an opportunity for a really, really big board state and a big
Which means
attack.
they're probably going to have haste if you have Samut or whoever else, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So that's a little combo that I threw in for fun, since it's also going to be making human tokens, and I'm going to find ways to make use of those human tokens no matter what. But the chance to profit with all the humans is just a good opportunity to enjoy. Weaknesses and challenges for the deck. I think it's probably going to struggle the most against control strategies. Decks that are really aggressively removing, wiping the board and not giving me a chance to do my shenanigans, my sacrificey, reanimate-y, everything. Exile effects are pretty rough as well, because it just kind of says, if you get my graveyard, I'm probably going to have a tough time. If you wipe my board with an exile effect, I'm probably going to have a tough time. That comes with the territory. So I don't mind with giving the humans a fighting chance, and hopefully they'll get a chance to show themselves. See how the humans can fare against literal assassins. I feel like humans are really good at dying to assassins. So we'll see. But at least I'll be drawing cards along the way.
That's why I like tribal or kindred decks. Is a lot of times when you're limited to or limiting yourself to a specific creature type, you're really not going for something insanely high power, right? Maybe there's some exceptions, but a lot of times you're going for theme. So, but.
And you can find so many great synergies when you limit yourself like that too, because you find, like I found all these human synergies with my 5-color humans, and you found all sorts of these little synergies that work really well when the assassins are all working together. And yeah, it's a great opportunity to showcase those kind of things.
Thanks for watching. Check out the other video, depending on which one you're viewing now, because I'll probably use this same ending for both videos.
Perfect.
So
we'll have an ending for both videos. We should do a quick shout out for our patron, Crash. Thanks, Crash.
Oh yeah, thank you, Crash.
Our patron. And yeah.
Oh, and join OGS. Join the
OGS.
Discord. We'd love to see you there. There's a good chance you'd be able to play with us there too if you hop in. So.
Links down below. We'll get the games going. But join the channel, subscribe, like the video, send it to a friend, and let's get some Commander going, man. Join the CommanDorks.
Hell yeah. All right.